The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 316 with Lt Col Dan Rooney from Folds of Honor. What's up, guys? Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where we know the stronger we are, the better we play. I'm Jeff. I'm your host, and I'm super excited to have you here on the 18 Strong Podcast. Now, if this is your first time listening, first of all, thanks for joining us, and welcome to the crew here. This show is way more than just a golf and fitness podcast, and that couldn't be more true than with today's episode, which I'll introduce our guest, Lt Col Dan Rooney, in just a second. But for those of you that are new here, I want to let you know that this is a show for a special kind of golfer. You see, we don't really care what your handicap is, and we're not here to find the latest tip or review the latest piece of equipment that's going to get you a couple extra yards. Our crew here is made up of a bunch of like-minded golfers that have a mild, if not a full-blown addiction to the game of golf, of course, but also they love to learn from and connect with really cool people that are either in the world of golf or have some experience and expertise to share that we know is going to make us all stronger the next time we step foot on the golf course. Now, sometimes we're talking strategy, sometimes it's what you can do with your body to play your best, and sometimes we're just talking about ways for all of us to be a little bit more awesome. No matter what, the goal here is for you to leave this show with at least one thing that you can take with you and apply immediately to your life or to your game that's going to make you better. I can guarantee that today's show is absolutely going to do that. I had the privilege of sitting down with Lt Col Dan Rooney, who's the founder of Folds of Honor, which, if you don't know what it is, it's one of the most successful charitable organizations in the game of golf. It provides educational scholarships to families of fallen or disabled service members, and it was started back in 2007 and really started as just a basic fundraiser golf tournament, charity tournament, and now has provided over $145 million worth of scholarships to families of disabled or fallen service persons. Now, Dan's not only the founder, but he's also the only person on the planet Earth that is both a fighter pilot and a PGA teaching professional. So there's a lot of stuff for us to talk about. And on top of that, he's also the author of the new book, Fly Into the Wind. So this episode is one of those that you're probably going to want to either pull over the car, grab a pen and paper, because there's definitely notes to be taken or just some great insights from Dan. You're going to understand how Dan's lessons that he learned as a fighter pilot have guided so many of the decisions of his life and the habits that he's formed over the years that have really helped him build such a successful and incredible organization, but also it's helped in his quest to play and teach the game of golf, as well as reach goals that he never could have imagined, like building a soon-to-be-open golf course called American Dunes with his business partner, and also his childhood idol, Jack Nicklaus. So there's so much to dive into with Dan. He's got such a great story, and he's just such a great and fun guy to be around and listen to his story. So let's jump into this episode with Lt Col Dan Rooney from Folds of Honor. Lt Col Dan Rooney, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. I'm so fortunate to have you on, and thank you for the time.
Yeah, blessed to be with you, Jeff. This is awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. First and foremost, from the 18 Strong crew over here, I want to thank you for your service. I love the background that you've got there with the big American flag. For the folks that are watching on YouTube, they can see that. And I love the way that you introed to me where you're coming from, if you could share with the audience.
Yeah, well, I stole it. So my neighbor about a mile from me is a little-known singer called Garth Brooks, and his wife, Trisha Yearwood. And when people ask him where he lives, he always says, man, I live in the land of common sense. And so it's a little two-horse town called Owasso, Oklahoma, suburb outside of Tulsa. And we built a golf course here called the Patriot, which is God and country with no apologies. We are not politically correct here. We don't like cancel culture. We like good old traditional American values, loving your neighbor. And like that flag behind me, and I flew that in combat in Iraq. It's not red or blue here. It is red, white, and blue. And man, our country needs a lot more of that, and a lot less focus on ourselves and just doing a little bit for everybody else around you. And we could get back to a great spot.
Man, I don't think we could start the podcast any better way than on that tone right there. For those that may have not heard of you and your accomplishments and everything that you guys are doing. I want to get into Folds of Honor. I want to get into your new book. But first of all, let's just kind of go into your background a little bit as the only PGA golf pro and fighter pilot that exists. I mean, how does that happen?
So it happens through synchronicity, which is a term I use a lot. I define it with chance. Chance and purpose come together in our lives, and it's around all of us all the time. But the challenge is you got to be watching for it, and then when you recognize it and you're inspired, you have to do something, or it's meaningless. And for me, I was 12 years old on the golf course and met this guy, Steve Courtright. Reno was his call sign. Was a fighter pilot, was my first man crush. And my other man crush was my PGA golf professional at the golf course at Stillwater Country Club. And I told my dad, who is my hero, told my dad, man, I said, when I grow up, I want to be a golf pro and a fighter pilot. And it was interesting because his reaction was a question back to me. And I'm 12. He said, son, can you tell me which way an airplane takes off? And I'm like, well, I think it's into the wind. He said, yeah, that's exactly right. So, the metaphor there for all of us is if you're going to chase big dreams in your life, be prepared for big headwinds and great challenge. And, thankfully I had a lot of support from a lot of people along the way to be able to accomplish that rare one-time job description of golf pro and fighter pilot. Does not translate into your bank account in a big way. But as far as being alive versus just living, which I think most people are, and there's a big difference between those two things, man, I have like the most abundant life and just, shooting at my fingertips on a daily basis, getting to combine who I am with what I do. So I'm one blessed cat, and that's before we even get to talk about Folds of Honor and all the other awesome stuff that God's brought in my life.
Yeah, you go into the book a lot about, that decision to be both and the struggles and challenges that were along the way. And did you really want to do it? Did you not really want to do it, going in and out? I want to kind of ask you a bit of a deep question right out of the gate here, because obviously this is a golf podcast. We base a lot of our, instruction here around the fitness side and the importance of all that stuff. But, when you're thinking about golf and the game of golf and you compare it to flying a fighter jet, golf can seem kind of insignificant in comparison at times, but I'm curious there's obviously probably parallels that you have seen between the two. And I'm curious what from the golf profession, the golf game, has helped you as a fighter pilot, and then maybe vice versa, what has helped you from your experience as a fighter pilot for your golf game?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So golf had a tremendous impact on my success as a fighter pilot, and I'll put it into context for you because stories are way more powerful than stats. But I showed up my first day of pilot training in Wichita Falls, Texas, and when you go through your training to become an F-16 pilot, government will spend $8 million per pilot on you over the 2.5-year period. And only 4.8% of the people will successfully compete the program. So by far the most expensive, highest attrition rate of any training in the United States military, nothing even close. And it was interesting because I can tell you of the 45 people that started the class pilot training with me, everybody in that room was smarter than I am from an IQ perspective. I don't think there's any doubt. And they're mechanical engineers. They're from the Air Force Academy. I was a golfer at the University of Kansas. But the big advantage that I had came straight from the game of golf. And that was I knew how to perform under pressure. And those are, the defining skill sets as fighter pilots. One of them is having your heart jumping out of your chest and, the world's kind of scrambled eggs around you, but you maintain a constant state. So that was a huge, huge help for getting through the training.
So when did Folds of Honor become an idea for you? I know there's a very emotional story behind, the actual moment that you kind of decided to start it. Did you always have in mind that you were going to do something along the lines of Folds of Honor? And give us an idea of the scope of where it started and now what it's like today.
Yeah, so no, I didn't. I love the term. It's like every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. So that is me. I would say before Folds of Honor entered my life, I was a pretty average cat. I spent a lot of time focused on myself and living my job description, which was, man, I'm playing golf, I'm flying fighter jets, part-time dad, part-time husband, was a pretty average guy. And I look at, Folds of Honor and enter in my life, and it really saved me. And it was 13 years ago, but I had just gotten back from my second tour of duty in Iraq, flying the F-16, and was actually on a commercial airliner and flying to my day job as a golf pro. And when we landed in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the captain came over and announced that we were carrying the remains of Corporal Brock Buckland on this flight, who'd been killed in Iraq, and that his identical twin brother, Corporal Brad Buckland, was in first class, and it had brought him the 7,000 miles home. And the captain, as they always do, they asked everybody to stay in their seats until Brock's remains were removed from the right cargo hold. And I sat that day and I watched that family on the darkest night of their lives, and really the fleeting nature of how quickly things can change hit my heart in a way that it never had before. And that ceremony finishes itself up, and despite the captain's request, I look back to the airplane, more than half the people were gone. It was like midnight, right? So they all went to climb under that blanket of freedom that Corporal Brock Buckland had provided for all of us. And I'll tell you, I felt a calling, and man, it was straight to my heart that I needed to do something. And so we started with a little golf tournament in Grand Haven, Michigan, at our family's golf course, which will reopen after being closed for 3 years and completely reimagined as American Dunes, with Jack Nicholas, who has done that project for us. But I started, right, and I talk about in the book, one of my favorite chapters in the book is "Go Before You're Ready," and it's such a powerful lesson. And but I had no idea, how to run a nonprofit, what we were doing, but we went and wrote down the day one our mission statement, which was to honor the sacrifice by educating the legacy, providing scholarships to spouses and children who've had somebody killed or disabled. And in 13 years, it's just amazing. And all credit to God's grace and a little bit of hard work. But we've awarded now over 29,000 scholarships, about 145 million out the door to spouses and kids who've had a loved one killed or disabled in combat. And really cool point, I was just doing an interview earlier today and talking about this, but 41% of our recipients are minorities. And humble opinion of mine, the only way we find a lasting equality in this country, which we desperately need, is through education. And one more thing I think to love about the impact that Folds is having, it's it's families, it's education, it's diversity, and it's just such an awesome ministry. And I think we've saved a lot of families along the way, and I was certainly saved in the process, as I've learned this amazing lesson in life that when you're reaching out to help someone, you're actually the one being helped. And you'll never be fulfilled without dedicating time and talent every day to giving to others outside of yourself.
Obviously, the growth that you guys have had speaks to the amount of passion behind what you're doing, and I love the "go before you're ready" because it's just amazing how often we kind of hold ourselves back, and because we think, like, I guarantee 13 years ago you didn't think you'd have millions and millions of dollars and have this many kids going through school. So, but from reading your book and obviously knowing your professions, I know that you're a very calculated guy. So going before you're ready, I'm sure you also had a pretty strategic plan as far as moving forward. What did that look like just from day one on a how do I start? What were the action steps that you took? For any of those people that are out there kind of thinking about a bigger calling like this, that they've maybe held themselves back.
Well, I would say you can't plan this supernova of Folds out, right? And I would say if I tried to plan it, I would be limiting what is possible. I think one of the skills that fighter pilots have that are very unique, and it is learned, is our ability to prioritize. So we move at twice the speed of sound, take in copious amounts of information, sensors all over the place, inside communications, people shooting at you, dropping bombs on the ground, and you have to be able to distill this stuff down because you're drinking through a fire hose. You cannot do it all. And I think if there's one thing that I look at, my success, and I take very little credit for it. I mean, it's a total God thing. But is my ability to prioritize on a day-to-day basis, and certainly get in the fight. And my routine is very disciplined. I'm up early, I work hard, but we have no control over the outcomes in our life. But we can engineer a process that gives us the best chance to succeed. I mean, it's the same thing you guys are doing in golf fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're setting yourself up for the best opportunity to be successful, right? And that's all any of us can do. And so, my advice to people out there, whatever dream is that you're chasing, obviously hard work, but you have to prioritize, because there are a million things every day that are trying to get your attention. We're all overtasked, overstimulated, and unless you can defend the stuff that really matters, it's going to be hard to be successful. And very little success occurs in this deal right here, right? And
Right.
it's certainly on Instagram or Facebook or playing video games or any of that BS. That is getting you nowhere. And I fight with my 5 daughters about that all the time. I'm like, hey, what is the ROI coming back out of that? And from a biblical standpoint, it's like, at the end of the day, I think it's really simple, is when the lights go out and on this journey, we're going to be held accountable for the time and talent we were given, and what we did with that, how we deployed it to help the people around us, make the world a better place. And hopefully, your legacy lasts a little longer than the finite time that we're here. And there are tried and true places where you can spend your time and your talent on a day-to-day basis to be able to answer that question appropriately when the time comes.
It's so easy for us to get sucked into all of the glitz and glamour and everything around us, especially with all the technology these days we have. And I love what you talk about in the book is having a code to live by. And you even kind of lay out your day of, what are the action steps that you take throughout your day. I love that you throw in a glass of red wine as part of your code to live by. That's fantastic.
Or a cold beer.
or a cold Budweiser, which,
Yeah.
takes you up a notch on my rung here as a St. Louis boy. And so I want to dig into that stuff when we get into a little bit more of the book. But before we move on from Folds of Honor, I want to talk about first Patriot Golf Day and also the 2 golf courses. I want to talk about, where the idea of the Patriot Golf Course came from. And then we got to talk about American Dunes and Jack and how that whole thing came about. But Patriot Golf Day, what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so I would say that the important stat in all of this is every meaningful thing at the highest level in my life is directly connected to the game of golf. I mean, it is my church, right? I go to church on Sundays, but the game of golf is my church. The cathedral of everything that matters in Noonan's life is there, and connected to it in some way, shape, or form. I went to play golf at the University of Kansas, met my wife there, right? Met my first fighter pilot on the golf course. Was on a commercial airline flight with the Bucklands going to my job as a PGA golf professional. And to take this sequentially, when my idea to start Folds of Honor sitting above my garage happened, the first 2 phone calls I made, one was to Golf Digest, a buddy of mine, Roger Schiffman, and the second one was to Brian Whitcomb, who was the president of the PGA of America. And as a PGA member, I'm like, hey, Brian, I got this very simple idea. What if we gave golfers the opportunity to play their most heroic round of the year and say thank you to the less than 1% that wakes up every day, puts on the uniform, and says, hey, man, I'm willing to die for this country and for your freedoms. And hard to argue.
Yeah.
But it's the PGA of America, right? And I'm above my garage, right? So this is all against all odds, right? And don't make odds in your life either. I mean, that's a big mistake. Just put it out in the universe and keep working hard, and you'll be amazed what can happen. And so Patriot Golf Day is going into our 13th year. We've raised, just through Patriot Golf Day, about $58 million.
Whoa.
since we started. It's on Memorial Day, and basically it boils down to, I mean, courses register across the country, but now this thing has morphed into go play golf over Memorial Day weekend and visit our website, foldsofhonor.org or patriotgolfday.com, and make a donation. And, we say as little as $1. It's $1, $5, $10. Some people give us $10,000, but it is the day that you can say thank you for your freedom and combine it with your love for the game of golf. So I'm a simple cat, a very simple idea, but it's the biggest hall pass ever issued. And if you're not taking advantage of it as a dude, you're an idiot, right?
I love it. I love it. Give us all an excuse to get out.
Oh, I know. Hey, I can't mow the lawn, babe. My country needs me. And you're off to the golf course. So that is Patriot Golf Day. It's still, our biggest fundraiser. I was just, yesterday I was at La Quinta in Palm Springs. We did an event there, raised $350,000, and it's just getting people around the golf course. And we know the people in our world, right? The best people. I got the best. I got my fighter pilot world and my golf pro world, and the best people in the country. So we're blessed to have a relationship like this with golf. American Dunes, I mentioned Folds of Honor started at the Grand Haven Golf Club, which was my family's golf course in Grand Haven, Michigan, right on Lake Michigan for the last 20 years. And we had to make a succession plan because my dad is 80 and we'd lost money for like 10 years. And I was like, this thing is not sustainable. And like so many things in life, the best things come out of inherently challenging and dark places. And our passion was, well, Folds of Honor started here. Is there a way to save it? And I threw the Hail Mary pass to Jack Nicklaus. I went down and I had a meeting with Mr. Nicklaus at the Bears Club, and I explained to him that I wanted to forever memorialize the birthplace of Folds of Honor. But more importantly than that, I wanted to create an instrument that would generate awareness and raise money for Folds. And after that, 3-hour discussion, he said, I'm in. I'll waive my $3 million design fee. You grab your friends, I'll grab mine, and we'll see what we can do. And I'll tell you again, man, we have been flying into the wind for almost 3 years. I mean, we have this saying in the military, beatings will continue till morale improves. I mean, I've been out of money on a Friday saying, oh my God, how are we going to pull this thing off? I don't know how many times. And in those moments, someone is delivered that comes in with the fuel light blinking, as we say in the fighter pilot business. We are out of gas, we're running on fumes, and somebody else comes onto the mission. And the happily ever after is American Dunes will open on May 2nd this year to the world. And it's going to be like a spaceship landing. There is nothing like this thing that has ever been created that is, number one, cause driven. But the reverence of this place, and I've played everything pretty much in the world of golf, doesn't exist. And it's about Jack's legacy. It is about the legacy of our fallen heroes, their families. It is about the most reverent beer drinking experience you're ever going to have, courtesy of our partners at Anheuser-Busch. It is about having scripture on every hole at American Dunes. And I just said there are so many layers of stimulation at this place. And it's like, if you love the game of golf and you love your country, and on top of that, don't have to be, but if you're a believer, you're going to want to have your ashes sprinkled at this place.
Is it strictly a public course, or is there any way that people can get involved in other ways or is it simply they can donate to American Dunes or Folds of Honor? Or because I know obviously people love this kind of thing and to be involved in a club and a cause. So is there a way that people can get involved outside of just the standard Folds of Honor stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, donate to Folds of Honor. That's the cleanest way. Everything that we are doing, that is the end objective. But the beauty of American Dunes, you can go play the golf course, right? It is a public golf course. We'll have 16 rooms of lodging starting in 22. It's not finished yet. But go play the golf course and check it out online. It's AmericanDunesGolfClub.com. The website is awesome. It starts with a fighter jet. It's a selfie of me in my fighter jet with the dark visor down that talks about our mission statement. So not what you expect when you land on a golf course website, but absolutely. I would say that, the 3 lines of effort that jump out to distill this down: foldsofhonor.org, join the squadron, make a donation there. We have $13 a month, which comes from the 13 folds that bring the flag to its triangle shape. Go play American Dunes. It is open to the world starting May. It's actually May 3rd this year. Grand opening's May 2nd with Mr. Nicholas and friends. Or participate in Patriot Golf Day. So go out, make sure on Memorial Weekend that you're out playing golf. If you got your local golf course, encourage them to sign up and register. Their facility will have thousands of registered golf courses across the country this year. But 3 awesome ways to get involved for any golfer out there.
Before I go any further with the podcast, I want to just highlight our friends over at Linksole, who continue to put out some of the most amazing apparel for the golf course, on and off the golf course. I want to highlight the Boardwalker shorts, which is really one of the staple items of Linksole. And if you don't have a pair of Boardwalker shorts or Boardwalker pants, then you best go get some right now. Go to 18strong.com/Linksole. You can get 20% off of all of their apparel. But the Boardwalker shorts are really my staple as the springtime comes around. I wear them obviously on the golf course, but I wear them to work almost every single day. They're so comfortable. They're casual. You can wear them out to wherever you're going, the restaurant, walking in the park, but they've got several different strategically placed pockets that the golfer would need, for your ball marker and different things. But they're so light and comfortable. There's also the AC version, which is basically almost an aerated version of the short. So when it really gets hot and muggy like it does here in St. Louis, I tend to go with the AC version as well. There's so many different colors. I don't know, there's probably 10 to 12 different colors now. So you always have a pair that's going to match whatever you're wearing. So go to 18strong.com/Linksole. You get 20% off of anything in your cart. So go throw a couple pairs of those Boardwalker pants in there, and be sure to get on their email list too, because they send out emails with great deals. I mean, I'm talking like 50% off deals, or 1-day sales with insane prices, or 3 hats for $30 or less than that. So again, 18strong.com/Linksole. I got to ask you, I know that Jack was kind of a hero of yours growing up. Obviously you as a golfer, you as a golf pro. What was it like to finally get to meet him, then approach him with something like this, and then really become a partner in something that is so much bigger than all of us?
Yeah. So there's always a great danger in meeting your hero, because usually it doesn't turn out well. Because you grew up watching someone like the Golden Bear, and they're on such a pedestal that the human side of it can't help but let you down. I would say to the contrary, Jack and Barbara are 2 of the most amazing human beings I've ever met. Certainly, you look at this, the parable of do good and good things happen. Every once in a while, that one plays itself out, and this one is certainly in that context to get to take this walk with Jack. And I'll tell you what, I mentioned that there have been like massive struggles doing this project, but to go to battle with Jack and Barbara, as opposed to have everything just be roses, has been awesome. And I look at my closest friends on this walk, and these are the people you've been through the shit with, right? Mm-hmm. It's easy to go have a beer and slap high fives and win together. When bullets start flying, right, and the world abandons you, and you got the ones that matter that come in tight, those are the real relationships in our lives that just aren't this drive-by stuff that is normal, especially in the world that we live in, with a comment on somebody's Instagram or whatever it is. I mean, it's just so surface. And it's a theme I guess I would share with everybody that's listening, that's been through struggle. And I've been through a lot of struggle in my life, and it's inevitable. We'll all get there. I just think God, I've learned this lesson many times over. I'm good. But um, that through the darkest places, the brightest lights come through. I just continue on this journey of life to just bounce off both guardrails. And it can be emotionally exhausting, but man, it makes the rewards feel so good when we get to, T minus 50 days from opening American Dunes, and you look back and you're like, I could, in life really, if I could give a crap what you've achieved, tell me what you've overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that I want to sit down and have a second Budweiser with. I mean, that is the stuff that matters in this world, is those resilient spirits and what they've overcome.
Well, there's a line in your book that I just wrote down this morning that speaks exactly to this, and this is, I think, is a perfect transition into the title of your book. Really, the whole idea of pressure and flying into the wind. But it was instead of viewing pressure as the element that could make everything unravel, I'd start to accept it as the catalyst that can bring it all together. And I mean, I think that right there, such a mental shift in the look at our struggles. And we could be talking, your ball lands in a divot, or, something significantly crazy happens in your life that is a struggle, a challenge, financially, emotionally, relationship. But somewhere out of that can come something that you don't expect. So, Fly into the Wind, the title. Why did you pick that of any other title that you could?
It's the title really says it all, right? I mean, I fly a fighter jet with 32,000 pounds of thrust. And to put that in context, we got the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500, our NASCAR race next week. That's more horsepower than the entire starting grid
Whoa.
at our NASCAR race. So most powerful jets in the world, but we always take off into the wind because we still need that resistance to ascend. And our lives are no different. And, it took me a long time to realize that this resistance is not something to run from. It's something to lean into. And because that opposing force lifts us up, like when you put your hand out the window going down the highway and it goes up like that. I mean, that is that Bernoulli's principle, that pressure underneath that rises us up. And I think, we're taught in this society we live in that, we want everything to be comfortable. We want to be at peace. We want to be happy. And that's not what we were built for. We were built to be great, and being great is going to be hard. It's going to suck. I start this book very openly with, some of the most challenging moments of failure in my life. And, I just go back to the social media stuff because it drives me crazy, but it's, everybody's high five moments,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look at me, look at my kid, look at my marriage, look at my family, look at this award. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is not, number one, it's not real. But number two, it's not what it's about. And I just, I think the ultimate courage and confidence people can demonstrate is to share their weakness, right? Mm-hmm. And to be open about their challenges and their struggles. And it's also, the humility is this great unifier. And you look at our country, we kind of start out at the beginning, like how divisive everything is. And it's like, man, what happened to, to being humble? So that the book is, I'm blown away. It's been out 4 months. I've never been so humbled in my life to get the feedback, and whether it's from Urban Meyer or a veteran that got it on Christmas Day that was going to kill himself that is still here because he got the book, or the 92-year-old lady in South Dakota that sends me, a check for $50, handwritten check, and says the book changed her life. I don't know how that happens at 92, right? But the point of it is there's something in it for everybody, because at its core, this book is about engineering fulfillment in our lives. And we could never have enough of that. And as I alluded to earlier, it's about prioritizing what matters. We use this term when we night fly in the F-16 saying, but slow down to speed up. And it's a great description of this book. It forces you to slow down in this dead sprint that we're all on in life. Evaluate, hey, where have I come from? Where am I? Where do I want to go? And then I share, for whatever it's worth, my code of living in there, which I call CAVU, which is a fighter pilot acronym that stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. So it's perfect blue sky, infinite days that we love to fly. But that's broken into 10 lines of effort, or LOEs, of 10 things I do every day without fail. And it's really a beautiful roadmap, though, for people to look at their lives and engineer it for hopefully, to live their best life. But it requires that you're brutally honest with yourself, and that's why I think it was so important that I was brutally honest and shared stuff that I probably didn't want the whole world to see. But I'm like, if people want to believe in me and in this book, I got to get very real out of the gate.
What I loved was we get a look inside what you guys as fighter pilots are seeing from your side. And I mean, the crazy things that, first of all, you guys had to go through with training and learning all these different pieces and checklists and those kinds of things. And the lines of effort, obviously, we're not going to go through all of them. People need to go get the book to go through all 10 of those. But if we could go through maybe a couple of them. I know there's a couple that really resonated with me, especially that I think will resonate with the golfers. And we talked about Go Before You're Ready, which obviously is a massive one that you end the book with. What's one or two that you think really stick out in your head immediately when you think the people that are listening to the show, typically golfers, the everyday golfer, guys that have families, kids, they've got all those things going on. Like you, golf is kind of their church. What's one or two that really stick out for you that we think we could dive into?
Yeah, so I'll give you two quick hitters. Number one, it ties back to golf. I just watched Gary Woodland finish at TPC Sawgrass on my TV behind me. So it ties to him. But this concept of volition, which is the third line of effort. And volition is a word that I learned in college that really changed me for my whole life. And it's the power of choice. And when you can understand that your opportunity and your accountability comes down to one thing, and that's your choices. And we have choices that we make each and, multiple times every day, obviously. And this concept for me, and specifically, if you can make it to I will, nothing can stop you. And that moment was my junior year in college when I learned this and got a lecture from a college professor. And I made the choice, right then and there, that I was going to be a fighter pilot and nothing was going to stop me. And it was really cool. This is 4 years ago. I went to Puma, Cobra Puma Golf, and talked to Bob Fillion. And I was like, hey, man, I want to do a clothing line called Volition America. And I would like you guys to make it. I want you to give back to Folds of Honor. But my desire is, outside of my flight suit, I've never walked in my closet and put something on that was a force multiplier in my life that represented who I am. Mm-hmm. And this concept of a uniform for life. And so he said yes. And they make Volition America. Puma does. I've designed, or I'm involved in the design of all of it. But it was so cool, a year and a half ago, my best brother in Christ, one of them, Gary Woodland, and I married Gary and Gabby, officiated their wedding, and we're both Kansas Jayhawks, and so tight. But I watched him wearing Volition America winning the U.S. Open. Again, man, you talk about setting goals or whatever. I could have never dreamed that one up for the life of me. So very cool line of effort, Volition, the power of choice. The next one I would share is parasitic drag, and get tons of good feedback on this one. So it's a fighter pilot term, and it is in a reference to when Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier. They had to eliminate the parasitic drag off the leading edge of the trailing wing on the Bell X1, and that allowed them to break through. They got rid of this drag. And all of us have parasitic drag in our lives. And I went through a really challenging period for about 8 years in my life where my outcome was pretty much out of my control and it was guaranteed to suck at some level every day. And so I looked internally at myself and I was like, hey, man, what is everything in my life that's within my control that is either adding to, or in the case of parasitic drag, keeping me down, right? Not allowing me to ascend. And I went, on a full-on assault for numerous years to get rid of this parasitic drag in my life. And I talk about in the book, which is so important in the code of this, is when you eliminate something, you have to replace it with something else. You can't say, man, I'm going to stop drinking 5 beers a night. You got to figure it out. If you're not going to drink beer, you take your dog for a walk. You do something else. This remove and replace science is so important in that concept of parasitic drag. But it can be, not forgiving somebody. It can be alcohol. It can be social media. It can be, hey, I overeat. It can be toxic relationships in your life. But this is a wildly cathartic exercise to sit down and look at and write down on a piece of paper, man, this is all the crap in my life that's holding me down, this parasitic drag, and systematically start eliminating that and watching this terminal velocity that can enter your life as a result. So those are two, and we talked about go before you're ready as well, which is the common denominator that ties greatness together. I'm convinced if there's one thing that true greatness has in its DNA, it's just this, man, reckless faith just to go. Man, you can't plan it or life will pass you by. I'm not saying you can't be strategic, but you got to go and get in the fight. And I know one of the questions that you love to ask is, best piece of advice for golfers. And go before you're ready is 100% it. So I got my master's in sports psychology. But if the one thing that if you look at all the good players, as soon as they come back to the ball, whether it's a putt, a chip, a shot, the club is in motion. And if you look at amateurs, there is the petri dish of death that occurs when they come back from the target and they come back to the ball. 1,000. 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and it's like, don't shank it, don't hit it short, don't hit it fat, don't hit it, all this stuff that is going on. And they take the reactiveness, they take the athleticism out of the golf swing by doing this, and you essentially paralyze your central nervous system. And it takes courage, right? Because they think they're actually in control, but they're not. I mean, they're just melting the athletic senses in your right brain's connection to the target. So the term that we use a lot when I coach guys, it's look and fire. It is look and fire. I mean, you play golf like a fighter pilot. You're there, you're back, you go. There is no time between looking at the target and going on whatever shot it is. And I literally, everybody I coach, that is, depending on their handicap, that is 6 to 10 shots within 2 months like that. Best golf advice I got for anybody out there.
One of the lines that I have loved for so long that I think resonates just with this is done is better than perfect in many respects, where many times we're waiting for all the situation to be right. We're waiting for everything. Just like you, when you started Folds of Honor, like if you would have waited until you had all the ducks in a row and before you were able to move, then it never would have happened. So just sometimes you just got to get it done, even if it's not perfect, and just move forward. One last.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, life is short, right, Jeff?
For sure.
If you're really going to make your mark, man, you got to go, and you got to go hard, and you can't be planning everything, and that's faith too, though, right? You don't have the answers. Your plan sucks, and the only thing I promise you about your plan, it ain't going to turn out the way you think it's going to turn out. So don't waste so much time planning.
100%. Okay, for years I've been saying that we here at 18 Strong should come up with some sort of a hydration drink that's made just for golfers. And if there's one thing that a golfer can do, that we can all do to play better golf and to help our game with very minimal effort, it's to simply hydrate better. Well, the cool thing is that Live Pure beat us to it. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also a little disappointing. Not that I was really going to formulate my own hydration drink, but you can think big, right? But what they did is they put together simple, convenient individual packets for the big three: hydration, energy, and recover. Now, I know that a lot of you listening out there are big fans of using the Whoop strap, and all the guys on tour are using the Whoop strap. And one of the biggest things that I noticed when I was using the Whoop is that hydration is one of the key things for recovery. And if you're not hydrating yourself well, you're really just setting yourself up for failure out on the golf course. But then what do all of us do when we get out on the golf course? Most of us, we don't drink enough water while we're out there. You know, if you're walking, it's hard to drink a lot of water. If you're in a cart, you're zipping around, and most of us don't drink enough while we're out there too. But, you know, maybe you're having a couple beers out there. Maybe you're grabbing that sugary drink that we all, you know, used to think was a hydration drink at the turn. And then you have a beer after the round or a couple of cocktails after the round. All of these things are helping to hydrate you when really we need to be going the opposite direction. Well, Live Pure has these simple little packets that you can take with you, throw them in your bag. You can pour them in your water cup, pour them in your water bottle, and it's going to do the trick. It's not going to put a bunch of junk and added sugars into your system, and it's going to help with your brain. It's going to help your muscles. So there's so many things that we can do out on the course that are out of our control, that impact our game. But this is one of them that we can control. So stop making sloppy bogeys out there because your brain's running slow, your muscles are firing in slow motion. What you need to do is go to livepure.com. That's LIVPUR.com. Use the code 18STRONG and throw some of these packets into your cart. You're going to get the hydration to stay hydrated, some energy for on the course, and then afterwards the recovery drink. Go over there. You can buy them in packets. You can buy them individually. But be sure to use the code 18STRONG. Get your 15% discount. I just saw on his social media Zach Johnson posting he was using the same stuff. A lot of the major champions, a lot of the tour pros that are using it, the stuff was formulated by Dr. Troy Van Biesen, who works with a lot of these guys. So you know that they're putting it in their body too. All right. Go to livepure.com, LIVPUR.com. I've got one last line of effort that I'd like to expand on a little bit, and it's a little different for golfers because golf is such an individualized sport. But you talk so much in your book about the importance of having a squadron, the force multiplier, having your crew, and you talk a lot about being able to debrief and evaluate with those guys too, and how beneficial it is to be open and honest. And what I've found personally from my side of things with golfers and in the fitness world is sometimes it's hard to do. It's almost impossible to do this stuff on your own. You know, to reach those big goals. If you're looking to lose weight or you're looking to become the best golfer you can't do that alone. You have to have people around you that are inspiring you or pulling you or pushing you one way or the other. And you talk about it so much in there. Can you just kind of elaborate on how much your squadron and is your force multiplier when you're out there in the skies or, you know, out on a teaching range even?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's on the other. This is going to be an obvious statement, but you know, isolation is on the other spectrum to the squadron, right? You cannot do things by yourself. And there was I reference in the book. There's a study at Harvard, longest running study on happiness ever conducted. It's been going like 92 years, so most people are dead. But they tracked this big group of men because women 92 years ago weren't, you know, included in anything.
Right.
And they wanted to find out what makes people happy in all different socioeconomics, you know, all different races. And the one thing it comes down to, the only way you find happiness in life is through relationships. And so this chapter about force multiplying is, I think everybody agrees, I'd like to be happy. So we look for happiness in a lot of different places that you're never going to find it, but understanding that true happiness comes through relationships in your life and then prioritizing those relationships that matter. And in the book, I talk about level 1, level 2, level 3 relationships. Level 1, drive-bys, right? Level 2, lots of people in level 2, lots of people you like, you enjoy spending time with. Level 3 is God's greatest gift to you. These are your closest friends, can be family, don't have to be family. We don't all get along with our families, all right? Just because you're blood does not mean you're a level 3. You know who these are. You can count them on, 2 or 3 hands. And care and feeding and nurturing and making sure there is time on the schedule for these relationships that matter, because they are the force multipliers in your life. They are going to be there when you're winning. They're going to be there when you're down and out. There's no scorecard with these people, keeping track. Well, I did this for you. Now you got to do this for me. These are the people that when you text them, regardless of what's happening, and you say, hey, I really need 5 minutes, they're going to be there. And we look at the marriage crisis in life. We look at family crisis in life. And I don't think it has anything to do with humanity and where it is. It has to do with people's inability to prioritize. And I talked about that early on as in our discussion. I've been given a unique gift as a fighter pilot to be able to take in lots of information and figure out what's really important. And relationships are the most important thing in your life. You need to inventory them. I am super intentional about the ones that really matter and making sure that I don't let life get in the way of care and feeding those relationships. And it happens. And that's why we get more isolated all the time. That's why we have mental health crisis. That's why we have this divorce crisis going on, is if you allow all the other crap to get in the way of the stuff that really matters, which are your relationships, it's going to be a tough road, because you need these people in your life more than you need anything, any vacation, any golf shot, whatever it is, these people. So look at your life, identify the people that really matter, and make sure that they are on your schedule and you are care and feeding those relationships, and tell those people how much you love them and what they mean to you, and that you are there for them without fail.
Guys, obviously you can tell this book is about a lot more than just fighter pilot stories and golf. Dan, where's the best place for them to go find the book? And then also, how can we as a community here at 18 Strong, obviously you mentioned the 3 big things to help out with Folds of Honor. Is there anything else that we can do as a community here to help out and spread the word?
Yeah, well, you just did it today, Jeff. So thank you, man. I'm very thankful God brought us together. And yeah, you can grab Fly Into the Wind anywhere they sell books: Sam's Club, Walmart, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's all over, and it's really cool because obviously we give back through Fly Into the Wind to Folds of Honor. So I would say, hey, man, change a military member's life and change your life. And my parting shot on the book are the best books I've ever read, and I probably have 20 on that list. I've taken one thing out of each one of those books that changed my life every day for the rest of my life. And that was my goal when I wrote Fly Into the Wind, is that when you pick it up and you spend a few hours reading it, that there'll be one thing that stays with you every day for the rest of your life that changes you. And just been, as I said, so blessed and humbled to get the feedback when people read it. And it is, yeah, I mean, it's really good. If you like fast jets and you like the game of golf, it doesn't suck just from that perspective.
Yep.
But more importantly, we're all bonded through struggle, right? That's the common denominator of the world. And what we do in the moments when life isn't going our way is going to define us, and ensuring that you're living each day in a purposeful way with discipline. Because as we close, Jeff, we'll hang up here and we'll wake up 10 years from now, and it's going to be like, man, where did that time go?
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of living by a code and living discipline is you'll be able to answer that question, because I'm living every day the exact same way, trying to become the best version of myself and have a life of impact to help other people.
Unbelievable. All right, before we close out, we got to ask you the final questions. I know you You know they're coming. So, and I already know your answer to this first one, but I'm going to let you maybe give a little background on why it's your answer. Favorite golf movie of all time?
Oh yeah, Caddyshack. Come on. I did just find Dead Solid Perfect on a Reclaim DVD though, and people that really you've seen Dead
I
Solid
had
Perfect,
no.
right?
Somebody told me about this not too long ago, and
Oh my
I,
gosh,
so I got to go.
honestly,
I've
yeah.
heard. Tell me a little bit about it because I've heard that it's
Uh,
great, but
Dennis or Matthew, I always get the Quaid brothers confused, but it's about a guy that's trying to make it on tour during the '80s, and oh man, it's such a solid golf movie and cult, very very unknown, dead solid, perfect. But for me, obviously, it's Caddyshack. You know, my call sign is Noonan after the main character in Caddyshack, and the call sign process is pretty cool. You have no say in your call sign. It takes you a year and a half after you get back to your squadron to get rid of your name tag, which has FNG on it. Stands for something new guy, so you know your place. And I'm the only Noonan in the whole fighter pilot world, so Danny Noonan for sure. It's really cool. It was fun. This was probably 3 months ago. I got to do a podcast, and it was with Michael O'Keefe. And it was just so cool, dude. It's like my idol growing
right.
up, Danny Noonan, and I got the call sign. And so Caddyshack, hands down. And my wife, by the way, um, looks exactly like Lacey Underalls. And she was the first naked girl I ever saw. I was like 12 when I watched Caddyshack for the first time. Had no idea the subconscious
Right.
stuff it was going to create. And it was probably 10 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, I married the closest girl I could find that looked like Lacey Underall. And it's because I was an impressionable young boy watching a movie my parents would have never approved of.
Aside from Christy Brinkley, she's probably the other, big female influence in my younger years.
Oh, I know, right? You're just like, I don't know why I like that, but I really like
Yeah.
that.
All right. If there was one, or is there one influential book that made a huge impact on you that you tend to recommend to people and that you'd like to recommend to the 18 Strong crew?
Yes, I'm an avid reader, and this one is heavy. But if you're going to put me on point to recommend one book other than the good book, the Bible, The Power of Now.
Norman Vincent Peale, is that right?
No,
Or no, he's the
you put me on the spot. It is Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. Okay.
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, Power of Now. Awesome. Very deep book.
If there's a walk-up song you're going to pick to go up to the first tee box at American Dunes, what is it?
Oh, I'm all right. Kenny Loggins. Come on.
Oh man, you just became my dad's favorite fighter pilot on earth.
I'm a Kenny Loggins junkie, man. I listen to the Pandora radio set, but I'm aging myself. I'm 48.
Kenny
so.
Loggins in the Redwoods. I mean, doesn't get much better than that.
All my movies. He's got Caddyshack and Top Gun. I mean, Top Gun's my number 2 movie, so he sings songs for both.
The synchronicity is just flowing through this podcast. All right, 18 holes of golf, anywhere in the world. Who's your foursome, and where are you playing?
Yeah,
and you can't pick American Dunes or the Patriot.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't pick either one. So I work there, so I have my different eyes. It drives me crazy when you work someplace. You're always picking away at it. For me, it is in my group. I would put my dad, my granddad Fritzy, who's not with us anymore, and Jack Nicklaus. And I had the opportunity to play with Jack and my dad, so I just haven't been able to complete that foursome. Was just down with Jack at the Bears Club the other day, and he's got a bad shoulder, but man, he came out on the golf course and we hung out. And it's just like, I don't deserve this. And I would say just somewhere on the water, maybe Torrey Pines, Bandon, National Golf Links, all this stuff. The water and golf is just it adds everything that I love. I like playing at a Torrey because you get the fighter jets and golf and the water, and so any of those places. But for me, it's more the people than the place.
All right, you already answered my best piece of advice question, so I'm going to ask you for a story, something related to flying your jet, something that none of us have heard, just a cool story that pops into your head.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a tiger story. So just in light of what he is going through, man, he's flying into the wind in a huge way, right? This
Mm-hmm.
massive challenge in front of him, and you look at that guy. I mean, he's been defined by challenge, and he knows Saint, right? And a lot of people forget that about Tiger, but I think his heart is in the right place. And I played a lot of college golf against him, NCAA's, U.S. amateurs. And it was in 2007. I took David Faraday for an F-16 ride at the PGA Championship here when Folds of Honor was just starting. And this is Sunday before the final round. And Tiger comes up, and I've stayed in touch as much as you do with Tiger forever. And he comes up, and it's Faraday and I, and he was like, "I heard you guys went up in the F-16 yesterday." I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Man, it's like I've been waiting to tell you this joke for a while." And I'm going to clean this up. But he said, "What do you call a black guy who flies an airplane?" This is Tiger to Faraday and I. I'm like, "Bro, I have no idea." "A pilot, you effing waste." Best golf joke ever.
Oh, that's great. That's great. We're gonna end on that one. That's fantastic, Dan. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Such an honor. Again, thank you for everything, for your service. But I mean, the work that you guys are doing, and the inspiration that you guys have, and the impact that you have is just incredible. And I know that the 18 Strong community is gonna jump on board. And can't thank you enough.
Yeah, and you're invited up to American Dunes. I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me. And I think for all of us every day, if you can become and incorporate your work with who you are, I think that's the calling, right? We all have unique talents in life. When you can align those things, and Jeff, obviously, you're doing that. But so often people feel like, "Hey, I'm stuck. I'm too old. This is where I am." But it's never too late. Every day is a gift from God. Get out there, have reckless faith. Go before you're ready. Eliminate parasitic drag, and know that your choices and your choices alone will write your legacy.
All right, my man. All right, thanks for joining us this week on the 18 Strong podcast. If you want any more information on Lt Col Dan Rooney, Folds of Honor, or his book, Fly Into the Wind, just go to the show notes over at 18strong.com. Look up episode number 316. Again, Dan's book is over on Amazon. It's pretty much anywhere that you can buy books. Go get it. I listened to the whole thing. It was incredible. There's so much stuff that we weren't able to touch on in this episode. And if you love it, like I know you will, spread the word. Make a review, take a picture, share it on social media. That's how you can continue to spread the word and do some good work for Folds of Honor. As Dan mentioned, part of the proceeds go to the charity there. Now, one quick announcement before we wrap things up here. I do want to let you know of a couple new things that are on the 18 Strong website, which is pretty cool. We've got our resources tab, which has some of the things like Dan's book. We've got some of the books that we recommend. We've got some of the products that we recommend that aren't things that we created. So some of the people that we've had on this show have some amazing products. Some of those things are affiliate products of ours. Some of them are not. They're just cool things that we recommend. So be sure to go check out the resources there. We also try to get you guys discounts on anything that we can that we think is cool. So check over there and it'll show whether you can use the code 18strong or if there's a specific link for you to get a discount on some of our most highly recommended products. We also, and I'm super excited to announce this, can't remember if I announced this on a previous episode, that our pro shop, our gear is now up on the website. So 18 Strong hats, shirts. We've even got our new, it's master season. So we've got our pimento cheese line of truckers hats that are, I have to say, they're pretty slick. I haven't unveiled my trucker hat yet, my pimento cheese trucker hat yet. But you can go over there. Those are going pretty fast, and we only have a limited quantity of those. So go check those out. You can find it on the homepage, 18strong.com. shop.18strong.com, or you can go straight to shop.18strong.com, I believe, for that. And then, of course, we have the app, the fitness app on there with the 7-day free trial. If you need help with your fitness, if you need a plan, that's what we're here for too. We've got the app. Tons and tons of golfers are using it. We're getting great feedback. If you're on our email list, you're seeing some of the success stories coming through from guys using the app. Guys, I can't thank you enough for being a part of the 18 Strong crew, listening to the podcast, spreading the word. If you enjoyed this episode, all we ask is that you tell at least one friend about the show. Invite them to be a part of this incredible community of golfers. And we will see you again next week on the 18 Strong podcast. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Linksole. That's 18strong.com/Linksole to get your discount, and livepure.com. Use the code 18strong to get 15% off. And we will catch up with you again next week with another great guest. Remember, the stronger we are, the better we play.